I called it already at the beginning. At the beginning of the year,
Sure.
when we covered 2023.
Oh, here we are, halfway through.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast, with your hosts, Connor O'Neill and Matthew Hughes.
What is up, fellow Misfits? It's
Welcome
Connor and Matt.
back to another episode of the Nerdy Misfit Podcast.
Yes.
How are we doing today, Connor?
Pretty good. We got a pretty jam-packed episode. This is what happens when we plan ahead.
We get so far ahead that we're like, hey, things have happened in the world that we should probably talk about.
Not just plan ahead, but even have a proper document set up, which sometimes is not the case.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
Improv anything that we talk about.
I don't know if you guys can tell, but sometimes there is not as many points to bring up during a show.
I know what you're talking about. Last week's episode I thought was pretty good. I thought it went really smooth and not too long, but not too short. It totally wasn't awkward at any point in the podcast episode whatsoever.
Well, yeah, if you didn't get to check out last week's episode, we did our regular seasonal preview for the anime season. This was the summer 2024 season. Go check it out. Yeah, it wasn't the most impressed. I wasn't impressed. You weren't impressed. It could be strong to some people, like we mentioned in the episode.
But it just wasn't our cup of tea for the subject matter that we were talking about.
Yes, unfortunately, I don't think there were too many shows that really got us excited, unfortunately. Which could be good. It means we do have coming up in the summer anyways, we do have Daredevil. We have Deadpool.
Yep.
We also have The Acolyte, which will probably be done by then.
Yeah, we have that. So by the time this episode comes out, it'll be about 3-ish weeks away before we talk about it. Give or take 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, we're 3 episodes in now.
Yeah.
To The Acolyte. Haven't heard
the best things, the strongest opinions, I should say.
Yeah, haven't heard the greatest things, but we will give our own opinion. We'll watch the series and we'll let you guys know what we thought about it. But as of right now, I'm just letting it kind of go on its own. And I'm not trying to spoil anything either. I'm not really hard. When it's overly negative, it's hard to not see that stuff. Thankfully, I haven't really had anything spoiled as to why. Mm-hmm. Just
had a couple small things. But
just a lot of not great sounding things.
Exactly.
Before
Before we get into more, what are we drinking today, Connor?
Today we have a
Every time, I swear.
Hotel National Special, which is pretty much a pineapple daiquiri is kind of almost what it's like. It's pineapple juice, rum. There's some apricot brandy, pineapple. I said that lime juice, and then simple syrup. This one is also a milk washed cocktail. It's got a cherry for garnish. That's why there's a little bit of a red tinge to it from the cherry. But another clear cocktail.
That's good.
There's like 3 more I have that I've already pre-batched. The cool thing about milk washing is that they do last long.
Yeah.
Like I can put it in the fridge, and if I don't feel like mixing up a cocktail or I don't have lemons or limes, I can just pour this out, give it a stir with some ice, and it's good to go. So that's kind of nice. You actually helped with this one because you picked up the brandy and rum.
Oh, right.
For it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's what I used it for.
It's pretty good. I like it.
It is. The apricot brandy is very nice as well. Mm-hmm. So definitely happy with this one. I'm a pretty big fan of daiquiris in general. I just like this. This one's obviously more complicated, but I like the simplicity of rum, sugar, and the sour, and it's
Easy
done.
peasy.
So this one is a riff on that. Very smooth. I think it's very well balanced. This one specifically it has sweetness, has like that tartness, and has that little bit of kick from the rum.
Perfect.
But yeah, so obviously it's not in a coupe glass, and it's not. I'm not going to waste a pineapple to garnish it. So
Yeah.
But it is good. Anyways, I guess we'll move on to the meat and potatoes of this episode. If you want to start us off
with some sad news.
Yeah, some very unfortunate.
This one is so unexpected. So a YouTuber in the comic book community passed away on June 8th. People would know him as Benny, or people would know him as his whole channel, which was Comic Storian. And personally, for me, he's been like, when I fell in love with comics over 10 years ago, he was my main YouTuber to watch. Like, it was him, Variant Comics, and Comics Explained. But Comic Storian was the one I watched the most. I remember sending you like tons and tons of video.
I was going to say, he's
Like-
definitely a massive inspiration for the Nerdy Misfit channel in general.
insane.
We did watch a lot of those big three original comic YouTubers. And yeah, I think Benny and his Comic Storian channel was a huge influence on us. It's very sad news. And not only did it's Comic Storian, he had manga. They did
Manga Storian,
they
full
did
stories,
so
know
many.
your universe. Like when I first got into Green Lanterns, I was watching all of his videos to understand the
and they're
different.
posting a lot.
They were posting almost every day about content for manga, for anime, for comics.
Great voice for the readings as well.
Oh yeah, he did full story readings. There was like 2-hour long videos, but the way he told it and the visuals he used, like I was sold every time. So it was also rough because a few days beforehand, you sent me a video, and you could see that he just looked defeated. He was like, "I'm trying to give what you guys want, and I gave it, but the algorithm is not quite working in my favor." And like it was just sad to see one of my favorite YouTubers like go through this. And this wasn't the first time he's posted something like this. Like he's had his trials of
The YouTube grind and
trying to give to his fans, and he tried so many different things, and then
giving up the creativity to try and
please the algorithm.
So
Please some of the fans.
big
But-
loss for the community.
Yeah.
Big inspiration for this channel specifically. He'll be missed. And moving on, that sad note, this episode will be primarily focused on anime and manga. Shocker.
Crazy.
Shocker. Yeah, so we got some interesting news, and there were, I don't want to really say controversies, but drama maybe around a few things that came out in recent weeks. I feel like we'll tackle the quote-unquote drama quick because I feel like it'll be a relatively quick conversation.
Yeah.
So the first big thing was it was announced that Demon Slayer episode 3 of the current season, which I think is season 4,
Yep.
which is the training arc, was only adapting roughly 1.5 to 2 chapters of the actual source content from the manga. And on top of that, it's also been revealed that there's going to be some anime original content throughout the rest of this season. Honestly, I think this was majorly overblown.
Agreed.
People rave about how good One Piece is. Sometimes that doesn't even go through a whole chapter.
It's true.
So, I mean,
that's a whole other conversation. But
and it sounds like the pacing was decent for the Demon Slayer one, which is they're throwing in well, I will say the pacing overall is slow, but that's also the training arc to be expected. We should be happy that they're not doing a full 12 episodes for it. It still looks what you would expect from Demon Slayer.
Yep.
And the filler, unquote, content hasn't been like offensive or off course of what would potentially be in the manga.
So here's the thing with that. I think for any of the animes,
Oh boy, here we go.
no, this is probably a controversial take. Of any of the animes that are recently airing that have become big because of the manga or manga sales and etc., anime viewership, etc., I think Demon Slayer is one of the few that I'm like, I wouldn't mind a little filler. In the sense of, you and I have talked about this on the podcast before, where we wish we had a little bit more of certain characters.
You want more, but
But
it's
I also
hard
don't
to
want to do
without.
bad to the writer,
Yeah,
like the mangaka. So like I understand from that aspect, but as a viewer, if you didn't know the source material, then
It's
you'd
just
probably
nice to get a
want-
little extra.
Exactly, you know,
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
with the Demon Slayer and the animation they have chosen for it, if it's a training arc, which is gonna be a lot of like fighting in quotations, Demon Slayer is known for their fighting shots. So if it is only going to be a chapter and a half per episode or for that particular episode, then part of me kind of understands to an extent, because obviously we've seen fights in season 1, 2, and 3, and those are only like, I'd say 4 or 5 pages in the manga, but they've lasted 5 10 minutes.
The fight choreography they've just extended.
Exactly.
Which is kind of what we've talked about this. Yeah, from an manga to anime adaptation, that's kind of what you want to see. You want to see, obviously you want to be able to see all the panels.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have those panels of a fight filled in to see the whole fight.
Exactly. Even with One Piece.
Of a story told, instead of just, here's the punch. Oh, we're skipping it. You don't want to see that in your anime. You want something different, or you would just read the manga. Why would you ever need to watch the anime? So that's definitely valid. I think I don't really have any major issues with it as long as it doesn't heavily affect the story negatively.
Yeah, or like if this changes the entire plot, like if it's going to be Tokyo Ghoul Season 2, then that is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
If it's going to be Promise Neverland Season 2, whole different ballgame. If your filler is going to drastically change
the source
your
material.
overall, the source material enough that the plot and the ending and big reveals are going to be changed, then that's when I would have an issue. Full disclosure, I've not seen the Demon Slayer season yet.
Okay. I think that it's mostly just filling the content to reach, because it's not a very long arc overall.
No, that's why it's
I was
8 episodes
almost
to begin with,
would have expected it to be combined with another arc and kind of do a 24 episode and have kind of like what they did with, not that you've seen it, but Jujutsu Kaisen season 2. They took the shorter Gojo backstory arc, and it was like the first 6-ish episodes of season 2, and then used the rest to tell the next arc.
That's what they did at the beginning of season 2 for Demon Slayer, right? Well, technically speaking, they did the movie, made the episodic form of it, and then they did another arc.
But they could have done something like that, which would have maybe gone over better. But if they need to fill in some time, but it's well done at least, and it's not completely changing the story, then ain't no issue with it.
Agreed.
Another controversial, this one was definitely controversial, I think.
This is very controversial.
Chainsaw Man. I don't have the specific chapter. Do you know which chapter it was?
I think it's the most recent chapter. I can pull it up quick. But do you want to describe what was...
So, the internet was in uproar over the most recent Demon Slayer chapter, or Demon Slayer, Chainsaw Man chapter, as Denji was pleased by another character via hand.
Yep. I found the chapter because I just
and it's what chapter is that?
That is chapter 167.
Yes, and without going deep into spoilers, the Denji is perhaps a bit in heat, and then the opposing character says, "I'll just cut your nerds off," and then they go to supposedly do so, and then on her hand. And people were losing their minds over this, and I have two things to say. One, if you gotten that far in Chainsaw Man, how are you even surprised?
Yeah.
Two, Chainsaw Man, people were talking about how it's a shonen story, but it has moved from Jump to a monthly... I believe it has moved from...
It's bi-weekly, yeah.
Bi-weekly. And I believe it's in Jump Plus now.
That would make sense.
I'll just do a quick check.
Long story short, I think it's because of how big the first season of Chainsaw Man is, so then people continued reading it. But then there's been controversial opinions on part 2 of Chainsaw Man to begin with, right?
Yeah. We are... So first arc was in... first part was serialized in Shonen Jump, and now it is in Jump Plus, which I do believe Jump Plus is targeted towards an older audience as well. So, not saying, you'd quite expect it in your manga, but Chainsaw Man has been a bit pushing the edge, pushing the line already many times on different topics. And it's nothing new for Denji's character.
No.
I mean, you go all the way back to the beginning. What is his quote-unquote shonen goal? It's not exactly the most heroic or stoic or,
exactly.
So, whatever. And I have seen some there's been some talk. I forget who it was. If it was an editor or something in Japan that was saying manga slash anime should not be affected by Western ideals or Western thoughts. And I do think that there's some things that maybe push the line a lot in anime or manga, but at the same time, we in the West are absorbing their content, which is part of like culturally in Japan.
Yeah.
Right. So who are we to tell another culture you have to, meet what we think is appropriate, what we think is right. We're the ones who are lucky enough to even read the manga or watch the anime, that it's even being dubbed and being translated for us.
Yeah.
If we push the lines too much, I mean, there's been a lot of stuff in Japan being closed off to tourists because of tourists from the West basically ruining certain sections in touristy areas of Japan by being not the best guests, let's say.
Yeah.
And, if we keep... There's potential that Japan has been a country that has closed up and is... I mean, look at so many stories about Japan being closed off to the world in general. But it wouldn't surprise me if people push the line too much where they're like, nope, it's just for Japanese now. So we don't want to ruin things.
Break it to you.
I don't want to ruin things, although there's too much money in it now. Probably they wouldn't do that. But I just don't think that it was that big of a deal. Maybe unexpected and caught people off guard for sure. But
I mean, I've kind of stopped reading Chainsaw Man. I think I'm like 17 chapters behind. Just the new arc just hasn't been doing it for me for interest. So it's
but if you don't like the series,
you don't like the
stop
series,
reading it.
Plain and simple. Yeah.
If you don't like the storytelling or where it's going, just drop it. You don't need to read it. If it offends you, or you shouldn't be offended or hurt by reading something that's there for your enjoyment.
Exactly.
If you're not enjoying it, drop it and find something else. It's easy as that.
Now, speaking of big series, moving on from this little bit of a topic here, it is said that in this year there's two.
Now I'm copying you.
Heyo, there are two big series coming to an end. One that you have been reading for a while weekly, and one that I've been reading for a weekly while.
So they say they're coming to an end.
Yeah. I mean, those two is Jujutsu Kaisen and My Hero Academia. Now, do you want to speak on behalf of JJK? Because you're all caught up without spoiling
first thing
anything.
is, there's possibly other bigger series, or not big series, but other series that are ending this year.
Mm-hmm.
These are definitely the biggest, and you'll know why as we get later into this episode. But My Hero Academia, we definitely are on the epilogue, you could say, of, without going into spoilers, we finally finished the fight that Matt and I have constantly been
nagging
saying
and
has
talking
been
about.
dragging on, and we're moving into the epilogue, which I expect to not be too long.
No.
Maybe 10, 15 chapters.
Even like between the epilogue chapter that came out 2 weeks ago to the epilogue chapter that was like a couple days ago for us, I don't even know if it's going to be 10 to 15 chapters. Like the way they've done this most recent
the way things
chapter,
are going is it could be 5.
Yeah, it could be wrapped up with.
But
the next
also,
couple and just,
I'm a One Piece fan, so sometimes you're like, "Oh, this arc's done," and then all of a sudden you're there
It's
for
not
another
done.
20 chapters.
That's true.
So, but it'll be done by the end of the year.
Oh yeah.
Jujutsu Kaisen is a little bit more to be determined how long it takes. We're without spoiling things, we're also in a very major kind of, peak fight of the series. And it's also been going on for a good amount of time. And basically, it does appear that once this is done, probably there might be an epilogue, maybe a mini arc, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have as much kind of knowledge as we do about My Hero, but it wouldn't surprise me if it is wrapped up before the end of the year. Which is crazy because not unlike Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, although is longer than Demon Slayer, if it does end by the end of the year, won't be that much longer.
No.
In terms of volume, like chapter length.
Agreed.
And it is also an extremely popular anime right now. That's only 2 seasons in.
Yeah.
3 arcs in. So there's another potential manga that's at its height right now that isn't even the anime's not even done, and the manga will be done, and hopefully they don't go Promised Neverland on it, but and they go the.
Part of me still wants to watch Promised Neverland season 2 just to.
I've seen it.
I haven't.
Okay.
Not experienced Promised Neverland season 2, and I almost don't want to, but part of me wants to be like, I understand.
So, this is just more of like a news. Those two are pretty big hitters in Jump specifically, but with 2 series ending, more series come. Maybe we'll get what's going to be the next big thing.
Exactly. And speaking of like manga, like physical copies and stuff like that, Viz has made this huge announcement about a lot of titles that are coming to physical, both digital series and getting physical copies.
Yeah, they had this is like maybe a month ago around there. Not even. They had a good healthy list. If you want to go through some of the titles.
Yeah, I'll just kind of skim through it a bit that I know that we can. So we're getting physical copies of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. Not surprised, but that is the Naruto Shippuden, this style. It's the sequel to Boruto. Ruri Dragon, I know, has a big following. We have Kaiju number 8 B-side, which is a spin-off series from Kaiju number 8. Kaiju 8 is currently airing this current anime season for spring, so it kind of makes sense. Minecraft the manga, that's weird. Dogs Red, I have read.
You've read some of Dogs Red?
Yeah, that's the hockey-based one.
This is the hockey one. This is also the mangaka who wrote Golden Kamuy,
I didn't know that.
Popular series.
Interesting. Yeah, I've really enjoyed Dogs Red. I've never been into the sports manga or the sports anime per se, but reading this
Haiku was the first one you
watched. Yeah, Dogs Red is the first one I've read. A Star Bred in the Sun, Beyblade X. There are many digital Viz exclusive series announced as well that are going to be getting physical copies eventually as well. Shoujo Null is a big one. The one I'm most excited about is Glinka and Gluna. I read that from start to finish before it got canceled. It is the first weekly series I read that I was shocked to get canceled, but obviously Western doesn't really have a say on that.
Yeah.
But it was a super fun series to read. It really just immersed you in a magical fantasy world, and when it ended, I was like, oh, I guess I'm never going to get answers to a lot of the things.
Your first pain.
Yeah, exactly. Wild Strawberry, another fun one. If you like Tokyo Ghoul or Kaiju number 8, Wild Strawberry is right up that kind of similar feel where they are part of a world where there's these entities, and then somehow they become one of them or connected to it somehow.
Yeah, now they become part of that world as well as their own.
Ichigoki's Under Control, I read that for a little bit before I dropped it, is comedic style manga, not really my cup of tea, but it's still crazy to see that we're getting physical copies because I feel like for Western, there's a lot of weeklies that come and go and end, and then we don't see volumes for years. I remember when you were reading
we don't get some of that are popular. Kingdom doesn't even have a physical or even an official translation for the West, and it is a massive series.
Chojin
in
X
Japan
took a while to get physical copies for us. That Red Riding Hood one,
which did also get ended. Finally. By the time it was over, it was already over before we even got.
It was a year or two, I swear, before we got physical volumes of that.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the risk of the manga in the West. The other thing is I'm not entirely sure how they pick and choose necessarily what maybe it is. Maybe Viz gets information from the app, seeing how many people are into that series, and that plays an effect on things. I'm not too sure. Another big thing is Hunter x Hunter is getting 3-in-1s. If you're not collecting Hunter x Hunter and you want a cheaper and more condensed way of collecting it.
Now, you're not really a fan of 3-in-1s, right?
Usually they're I find them to be too chonky. They're not as enjoyable to read. They're also usually a different size and doesn't line up as well with if you've got a lot of the same style.
I unfortunately have 2 series of 3-in-1s.
Well, one of them was mine that is now yours.
Which I bought for you.
Good chunk of it.
Yeah, it's very weird, but
because then I got the regular
single
box set.
Volumes.
Yeah,
then box set. Sorry,
and then so it's been passed on.
I'm debating about doing a 3-in-1 for Attack on Titan, but I'm not entirely sure.
Is the Attack on Titan is that different than the Colossal editions or?
Yeah, the Colossal editions are the big thick ones. There is like 3-in-1 style ones.
Oh, okay. So there's
Yeah.
like just the more
Yeah.
small.
Oh, and
stubby
Tokyo
ones.
Revengers I have, but they've only been released in 2-in-1.
Two. Those are 2-in-1s. Yeah,
Yeah.
specifically
Which
for
are
release.
weird.
On top of that, Tagashi is also been tweeting that he's been working on chapters. So it looks like potentially some Hunter x Hunter chapters will be coming out at some point this year. Not sure how many, but fingers
Only time will
crossed.
tell.
Any chapter's great. Any chapter's great. So I'll add that in there. And then the big chunk of the rest of this, I'll have Matt put a picture up in post for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But Oricon had its half-year sales rankings for manga volumes. So this came out a couple weeks ago. And it covered the first 6 months of 2024 in the sales. And I'll go through the top 10 quickly, and then we can have a little discussion of maybe what caught us by surprise, maybe some explanation for some things for people that maybe are new to the manga sale world. But without further ado, we got at 10, My Hero Academia at 1.265 million copies. At number 9, we got Mashal at 1.275 million copies. This is going to be million. I'll stop saying million. Kingdom at 1.6. Spy Family, 1.6. Literally looks like it's 400 copies ahead.
That's insane. So close.
Haiku, 1.8. Blue Lock, 2.1. One Piece, 2.1. 2.18. Blue Lock being 2.14. The Apothecary Diaries at 3.7, basically 3.8. Freyren at 4.3, and Jujutsu Kaisen at number 1 with 4.6 million copies sold already this year, first half of the year.
Insane.
So I guess I'll put it to you first. What anything that's caught you by surprise? Anything you're not surprised by?
I mean, when we compare it to how many volumes are sold of individual things, I think.
So yeah. So for just so people are aware, this is in reference to all volumes sold. So One Piece has whatever it is, 104, 105 volumes or whatever it is. If people are buying volume 1, it's counted into these sales. Right?
So I think not the big surprise, but the one that is kind of amusingly shocking, but it also makes sense, is Haiku coming in at 6 when it's done.
Haiku's
the anime
done
is
for,
finishing now, obviously, with the
Haiku's
movies.
been done for about 3 or 4 years, I think, the manga.
Mm-hmm.
It was, to be fair, like always a staple top 5 in sales while it was running.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Haiku cracking the top 10 off of just the movie hype alone is pretty crazy, considering how long it's been out for. The manga, that is, not the anime. But also, just goes to show you that people love them volleyball boys.
So my question to you is, do we have, because Kingdom's not not airing, obviously.
Kingdom.
Because I'm looking.
I don't remember the most recent one, but there was a recent-ish season of Kingdom. But Kingdom's always it is almost always in the top 10 for sales for manga.
That's fair.
And this is only, I'm pretty sure, only Japanese sales for Oricon.
March 31st, 2024. Okay. Because I'm also realizing that, obviously this makes sense, but I'm assuming all 10 of these had seasons this year.
They've all had season, yes. That's why Freyren and the Apothecary Diaries are so...
Yeah.
Because their backlogs have definitely been scooped up.
Definitely. That makes sense.
So for people, like I said, backlog being... I'm not entirely sure how much there is of Freyren, but let's say it's... Oh, okay, I have a note here for Apothecary Diary, so we'll go by that. Apothecary Diary currently has 13 total volumes.
Mm-hmm.
So when the anime was airing, and people were loving the anime, very underrated. I think it kind of went under the radar a bit. It did have moments on the Reddit where people were hyping it up, but I can't remember. I think Jujutsu Kaisen maybe was airing, or Freyren was popping up. There were some other series that ended up kind of taking over. So Apothecary Diaries kind of went under the radar, but it's been definitely a really good anime. You should check it out. And a lot of people obviously enjoyed it, and they've gone to pick up the series. And in doing so, if you're Matt or me, and you're like, hey, I really liked the Apothecary Diaries. I don't own it. I want to read it. Oh, would you look at that? There are 13 volumes. I'm going to pick up volumes 1 to 5.
Yep.
Oh, it's been a month. I'm going to pick up volumes 6 to 13.
Yeah.
So that makes up 13 volume sales already for the manga.
Person.
And then all the fans that have watched it, you multiply that by potentially 13 volumes, which is what's currently out of the series, and the number go up real quick.
Yep.
And to give some, I guess, perspective on how impressive something like One Piece is that One Piece, I think it's fair to say for the most part, everyone who's reading One Piece most likely owns most of the volumes.
Yeah.
They probably have around 100 volumes of One Piece. So they pretty much are only picking up whatever comes out that's new.
Makes sense.
One Piece has 2.189 million copies off of one new, not specifically this volume, but they only have one new volume that came out in 2024. And they're up this high. They're in the top 4 off of one new volume. And for the most part, like I just mentioned, it's probably just people that already own the manga. There aren't many people that are buying 1 to 104 of One Piece.
To be fair, there is One Piece 3-in-1s now too. So,
which is true, but that's for us. I'm not too sure in Japan what's going on with if there are 3-in-1s. I'm sure there's many different versions of One Piece, but just to give reference that it is a very long running series, so there's a good chance the only people that are picking up the volumes are people that need the most recent ones.
Yeah.
Whereas something like the Apothecary Diaries, most people are catching up because the series was not as popular until the anime aired.
Makes sense.
Same with Freyren. I'm not entirely sure how many total volumes the story has, but it's definitely gone up. It's still number 1 on my anime list. It's got a ridiculous rating on there.
13 volumes as well.
13 volumes as well. Thank you, Matt. It's still the top of my anime list at a 9.36. 28 episode season that aired from September 2023 to March 2024. That's it. It was a really good anime. Not surprised to see its manga sales doing so well. Jujutsu Kaisen, obviously, we came off a very hyped up season 2. Perhaps if you're nitpicky, you might have had issues. We talked about it in our Crunchyroll Awards episode. It did win a lot of awards from said award show. Not surprised to see it doing so well. I'm pretty sure, other than the 1 year where Blue Lock had the most sales, it was the year previous had the most sales, and I think the year before that as well. So it's kind of been, ever since it aired, basically, it's been at the top.
Yeah.
Or in the top 2.
The one that I'm not, sounds bad, I'm not happy about. The one that I don't really care for that's on this is Mashal, but...
People were loving the anime.
People were loving the anime, which is whack to me. But
also, Mashal's done.
Mashal is done.
The manga's done.
I don't expect this to be on the list by the end of the year for top selling.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. The thing that makes me believe you're correct in this is that, 1, we have 2 seasons left still for other manga / other anime that'll bump up manga sales. I'm expecting, and this was a prediction I made at the beginning of the year when we covered 2023's full year of manga sales, which was I expect Dan to Dan to be top 5, top 3 after its anime airs.
That's definitely going to push Mashal out. I mean, to be fair, My Hero is only back by what?
My Hero is 1.265, Mashal being at 1.275. My Hero only having 1 volume released this year.
But I think if My Hero is going to end this year, I think people are going to want it. But also, I mean, Mashal doesn't have a box set either.
That's
My
off
Hero
of
does.
That's off of 1 manga volume, though.
I know.
Most people probably have. Most people who are into My Hero at this point probably own it.
Own it, yeah.
And it's only got 1 new volume. Where Mashal, for example, most people are buying Mashal because they probably don't because it's relatively new. And it's only, I can't remember how many volumes it is. 18?
I think.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, My Hero's 40 plus now.
Yeah.
So. Could get a box set.
But that just goes to show you My Hero off of 1 volume That's one specific volume is probably what's carried it to the top 10.
Yeah.
It'll have another volume, maybe 2.
Another volume for sure, and then with the season airing.
Currently airing.
Is it currently airing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it started in spring.
So, but I think series like Dan to Dan will also make their way into the top
I think
10
so
and
too.
push some stuff out.
You heard it here, folks. Dan to Dan going to be in the top 10 manga sales by the end of the year.
I called it already at the beginning. At the beginning of the year,
Sure.
when we covered 2023.
Oh, here we are, halfway through.
So, Blue Lock keeping its way in, not surprised. I think it's currently probably the most popular sports manga that is still being written. And I say that because we always see Slam Dunk show up. We always see something like Haikyuu doing well. But as a series that's still going on, I think, and a movie that recently came out,
Yep.
I'm not surprised to see Blue Lock still doing well. It's always nice to see a sports anime doing decently. Like we mentioned, the hockey one. I hope it gains popularity enough that it can continue going. I don't want it to end without it actually wanting to end. You know, being told to end. But yeah, I'm excited to see how the next 6 months pan out for some of these series. It's always really exciting and cool to see the numbers. And I mean, when you look at, for example, in this one, we've got 3 that are almost at 4 million and then a drop off to like 2.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see how many sales Jujutsu Kaisen has by the end of this year. It does have 2 volumes out this year, which is more than some, but obviously it's still currently going.
So I have it
Anime
exactly.
just came out.
So Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 25 sold
Yep.
1.45 million copies alone. So this is based on what numbers we're looking at.
That's more than My Hero and Mashal.
One Piece Volume 108 sold 1.4.
So over half
08.
of the copies for One Piece.
This is Oricon announced the Oricon Mid-Year book ranking on the 30th,
Yep.
which targets released in Japan, securing the first place. Okay, Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 26, 1.195. So that's just 2 of the volumes alone right there.
Yeah, and so that goes like Jujutsu Kaisen is currently selling roughly 1.2 million per volume.
Now we drop above a million.
That's it.
Those are the top 3
for single volume.
for single volumes in the millions. Now we drop just below at 946,000 with Spy Family Volume 13. And then for the rest of the top 10, Frieren is in it twice. One for Volume 12, one for Volume 13. Volume 12 is at 637. Volume 13 is at 509. Other ones that are important, My Hero Volume 40 is sitting at 560,000. To be fair, I think some of these volumes have recently just sold in comparison to Jujutsu Kaisen 25, obviously.
Exactly. Some of them came out early May, and I think this ranking came out kind of near the end.
Yeah, exactly. Fun fact, Jujutsu Kaisen has been registered in the Guinness World Records as the most in-demand TV anime series worldwide.
Yeah, I did see that. But this just goes to show that on average, a One Piece volume, or at the moment Jujutsu Kaisen, for example, are selling some crazy numbers per volume.
Which is insane.
Right? I think One Piece is over something. It has something insane, like 500 million copies, but that might be worldwide. Yeah. I'm not too sure what the specific to Japan is. But even so, that's
what's crazy too.
Crazy amount of
is that I didn't know that Oricon actually does this weekly.
Yes, they do.
Interesting.
Yeah, they do weekly for whatever volumes are out.
So the weekly.
sales.
So this is Japan though.
Yes,
I think released its weekly manga ranking for the week of June 10th, and that sitting alone is Jujutsu Kaisen volumes is 17,884. That's not the top one. The top one, I don't know if you're gonna guess this. You don't have it because you're 3 volumes behind you. Last week's sale, the highest selling manga for copies sold is Dress Up Darling Volume 13.
Oh,
sitting at 82,707. And then the closest next one is Kingdom 72 at 50,000.
See, Kingdom's popular.
That's crazy.
Kingdom's popular. Good story. Check it out if you haven't. Get it, check it out so it can get popular. Tell tell Viz or someone, whoever is gonna do the printing. We need it. We need it.
The
We
week
need a
before that,
English copy.
Dress Up Darling 13 sold 102,000 copies. This is crazy to look at.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's Japan, and obviously that's a little bit
cheaper as well
cheaper for sure.
for the tankobons, but yeah, man, that's like why people say anime. All anime is a commercial for the manga.
Yeah.
Because look at those numbers they're pushing. And that should also show you, like, that's why a lot of anime maybe doesn't get the highest production value, because like, oh, whatever. It's just a commercial.
But it's so much more.
But yeah. So I'll make sure that Matt posted a graphic for you guys so you can see what we were looking at. Matt, make sure to post that for them.
I'll try my best. As I edit this back, I'll particularly be like, oh, hey, I remember that. Is there any like shockings for you or anything on this list?
I was a bit surprised by Mashal cracking the top 10. I didn't like. I know that the second season or second core, I'm not too sure what it ended up being, if it was the second core or second season. I knew people like loved the opening, and there was like a whole TikTok shorts craze for doing the dance with it.
Yeah.
I did not expect it to help it in sales as much as it has, but I guess like people like Harry Potter. It is just One Punch Man Harry Potter. Like, it really is. Like,
it really is, but I just couldn't get through it. Obviously, you read the manga first, but I didn't read the manga, and just watching
some of the jokes can get stale pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was watching Kaiju number 8, and we'll talk about this in a future episode. And like the comedy in Kaiju number 8 is not like super funny, but there's moments where I'm like, it just makes me chuckle. And I'm watching it and I'm like, this is what I wanted from Mashal.
Okay, that's
like,
fair.
So just like they're so stupid jokes in Kaiju number 8, but maybe it fits the setting better.
I guess for me, for Mashal, is I find that the jokes can get a bit stale and repetitive. Kind of like One Punch Man, I think, is similar, where they can kind of get a little stale. Yeah. But the difference in One Punch Man is the animation, well, at least for season 1, speaking for season 1, is crazy.
Yeah.
And the art in the manga is great. So,
well, I think a lot of people going into One Punch Man knew
what
it was about. Like being like, it's a parody on superheroes. Mashal,
yeah, this is a parody on Harry Potter.
Yeah, but I think when One Punch Man came out during like the hype of Marvel and stuff like that, when superheroes was
you think it helped it a lot? If this came out during Harry Potter?
I think it would have done a lot better.
Okay, that's
I think
valid.
if the wizarding world of Harry Potter was still as big as it used to be, I think this would have done a lot better.
They should have aired Mashal after this Harry Potter HBO rework or whatever.
That's what I mean. Like, if you had
is that actually a guaranteed thing coming out? I can't remember.
It did come out already. Like
that was them going.
Table?
I'm talking.
Oh, you're talking about. Oh, yeah, that is a guarantee. They're rebooting Harry Potter on HBO.
Okay, like the whole
7 seasons, 1 season per book.
Okay.
We'll see how Percy Jackson does it. Hopefully it goes well.
Yeah, I mean, Percy Jackson, fingers crossed. We did like season 1.
It's great. If you want to know our opinion,
Harry Potter is tough because obviously we grew up with Harry Potter.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is, I do think the one thing that could be nice is we've met people who are like, I'm not into Harry Potter. No, I didn't watch it. No, I haven't seen it, which is wild. Mm-hmm. Hearing younger people say, no, I haven't seen it is kind of crazy.
It's when the younger people are like, you're like, oh, do you know Emma Watson? They're like, oh, you mean Belle from Beauty and the Beast?
You're like, no, dude.
You're like,
Hermione Granger.
No. No.
But then they say, oh, no, I've never read them. No, I've never seen them.
Yeah, I never watched Harry Potter.
I just find that crazy.
Like, that was such a big staple in our childhood.
But that's like saying you haven't seen Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. Like, it's that big, right? I feel like it's that big.
So, yeah, I think it depends on the community. But I think, like, you don't have to be in, like, to watch Star Wars or watch Lord of the Rings, I feel like you have to be more of like a geek or a nerd. But Harry Potter doesn't really have that stigma around it, I don't think. Like, it does a little bit.
I think it has the stigma of, like, the fans are cancer.
The writer is cancer.
That's your opinion. That's your opinion. But you know what I mean? Like, where Star Wars fans, a lot of people are like, yeah, they're nerds, but also people don't like Star Wars fans because Star Wars fans are very passionate.
Yes.
Very passionate. Lord of the Rings fans are passionate. Harry Potter fans, they're right up there.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
They're passionate, and we have friends that are.
We have some friends that are huge Harry Potter fans.
But yeah, I guess we'll have to ask them, and we'll come on an episode and talk about it. I don't know if we'll be able to get them on, but we can definitely ask what their opinion is of a reboot.
Yeah, we'll see what they
Because
say.
there are definitely things I would like to see that we didn't get to see in the movies.
Book number 4, looking at you.
But also, do we need to reboot everything?
No, we really don't. Stop.
I want to
beating
see
dead
some
horses.
original stuff.
Exactly, I agree.
That's what I think that's, I mean, this is kind of in a bit ironic to say, but I do, one thing that I really enjoy about anime and manga is we do get a lot of very original stories.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, there are definitely things that are perhaps cliche or done before, but also
Everything's
for
done
everything
before.
that's kind of been done before, or we get a different character's perspective of how they deal with it, how they go through said, trope. And I really enjoy that about anime and manga. It feels like we're always getting new and cool stuff. And especially with Jump, we're getting a lot of titles that are kind of pushing, the boundaries of what you'd expect. Like, I know there's a lot of people that hate on Jujutsu Kaisen, saying it's not as good and it's overhyped. But, I mean, as someone who's a big fan of the big three, quotations, big three, the OG big three, yeah, there are definitely a lot of things that are taking inspiration from them. But also, I love the dark twist that Jujutsu Kaisen puts on a lot of it. And the hypes and power systems is hype. It's fun. You can't complain about good, cool fights and cool powers and stuff.
Exactly.
But yeah, I
can-
feel like that'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Next week,
Of the month.
we'll be discussing the anime of the month. Unsure what we will also discuss. We'll see how long it takes to get through said anime of the month conversation.
You have a guest, maybe don't have a guest.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a
We
guest,
won't
maybe
know
we won't.
until the recording, and you guys won't know until next week. So until then, thanks again for listening. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for playing around in the Discord. If you want to join the Discord, if you're not part of the Discord, join the Discord. Where we can talk about the anime of the month. We can talk about the anime that you're watching this season, or manga that you're reading, or comics that you're reading, or shows that you're watching in general.
RPGs is that you're in?
Or RPGs, etc., etc. Yeah, until then, thanks guys.
And we'll
for
see you
watching.
guys
Thanks
next
for
week.
listening. Bye.
Bye.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast. Don't forget to join the island by dropping a follow. Thank you, and see you next week.